Virtualized data centers are great, but the real world is managing hybrid data centers. Find out how next. SDR News coverage of AWS reInvent made possible by Dome 9. Total control and visibility over your cloud infrastructure, network, and host security. Garantia, the in-memory NoSQL company, offering enterprise-class Redis for developers. Encapsulation, website security, always-on protection from bots and DDoS and real-time stats on visitors and threats. Skillbase, leveraging MySQL and scaling out data at the speed of your business. And eMind, architecting, building, and operating enterprise-grade clouds in billion-dollar HIPAA, PCI DSS, and SOX environments. More coverage of AWS reInvent online or on the SDR News Roku channel.
Hi, this is Tim Crawford with AVOA. It's part of SDR News, and I'm here to talk about infrastructure management in the cloud. And joining me today is
Tim Fessenden.
And you're with?
We're with Intigua.
So tell me about Intigua and really where you play a role in the cloud and infrastructure management.
Great. So the premise of Intigua was born out of the notion that there's all this innovation around the software-defined data center, around virtualized compute, network, and storage. And yet nobody had taken the premises and the concepts of the virtualized data center to the management layer. You still have these legacy products that were never built to work with the dynamic nature of the cloud, or for that matter, the hybrid cloud, right, public and private, into effect. And so what we did is we came up with a management solution that allowed IT operations, regardless of where the workloads reside, to have the assurance that they're laying down the right management stack across all the workloads, and do that in a way that doesn't impact the business, because at the end of the day, the reason all these workloads exist is to service the business.
So this is a solution that's working across both public and private clouds.
That's correct. It doesn't matter where the workloads reside, and for that matter, how they were initially provisioned or requested, whether it be from self-service orchestration interfaces, AWS console itself, VMware VCAC, Rackspace. It doesn't matter as long as the resource was provisioned. Our system automatically detects that the resource was provisioned, and based on the profile of that resource, determines what management stack, backup, performance management, config management, antivirus, all the tools that we all know and love that have these agents traditionally. We package that up and we deliver that to the endpoint in a very differentiated way, which I'd love to talk about here in a minute, and ensure that the lines of business don't have to wait days and weeks for those resources, and when they do get them, they're not adversely impacted by runaway processes of those management staff.
So it's good that you mentioned differentiation, because there are other solutions on the market today that will help you manage across public-private clouds. So what's unique about Intigua?
First and foremost, the concept and the way Intigua was built was in this notion of a virtual container. And so when we deliver the management stack to the endpoint, we do it inside of the Intigua sandbox. And what this allows us to do is easily plug in new management technologies or tools divorced from the operating system and the business app itself. So it lives in our sandbox. That sandbox allows us to throttle the resource consumption of those management tools. And so you might have 5 or 6 agents living on the machine, and some of them might be backup or antivirus that tend to consume a lot of CPU or memory. We'll throttle those resources and ensure that the application that's running on that workload won't be adversely impacted.
So are you replacing the traditional management tools for the VMware or AWS cloud, or are you augmenting those?
Augmenting. At the end of the day, you're still running the bits and bytes from your traditional management tools. You're just doing it inside of this encapsulation technology that Intigua has built that gives you that confidence that you're not going to adversely impact the business applications that are running on it.
What are you seeing as the starting point where people are getting started with Intigua? Is it more around private cloud and managing that, or is it the hybrid scenario or public cloud?
It's more on private cloud, I'd say, to start. I mean, we're certainly starting to see, as we heard about in the keynote today, as more workloads get moved, production workloads get moved out to the public cloud, then the need for management becomes greater there as well. So we're seeing a lot more of that. Certainly why we're here today. So they start there, and they often start with the concept of that virtual container out on the endpoint. And then what we're seeing is, as people mature, they not only move it to the public cloud, but they move it to the back ends of each of those tools. And so when I talk about that, the agent itself is one part of the solution, but also all the policies that live in the backup server, the performance management server, the config management server, those all need to be managed just as well as the endpoint itself. And so we look at that holistically. It's not just about the agent, it's about the entire ecosystem, the entire life cycle of the management stack itself. That includes the back end.
So if folks want to learn a little bit more about Intigua or want to get started with it, what would you suggest?
So obviously we got a lot of content out on Intigua.com. We got a bunch of webinars and white papers. We do roughly a one webinar a month, a monthly webinar, and we can get pretty technical on that. Certainly give us a ring. It's a relatively easy product to showcase, install, demonstrate, proof of concept, etc. We'd love to show it to you.
Great. Thanks for your time today. Great to meet you.
Thank you.